Hi, this is Randal Schwartz, host of FLOSS Weekly. This week we're live, coming to you from OSCON. Joining me is Simon Phipps. We're going to interview Rick Clark with Rackspace, talking about OpenStack, the new open version of the cloud computing software. So stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for FLOSS Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is FLOSS Weekly with Randal Schwartz and Simon Phipps, episode 128 for July 21st, 2010, OpenStack. It's time for FLOSS Weekly, the show that brings you every week the free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randal Schwartz, and behind me, if you're watching the video, you may see a lot of activity because I'm coming to you live this week from OSCON, the open source convention that happens every year, sponsored by one of my main publishers, O'Reilly & Associates. And so if there's a little bit of noise in this week's show, it's because we're right here on the floor, right here in the hallway. But we have a very special guest, but before I get to my special guest, let me get to my special co-host, the person who brought me today's guest. Let me push the button over here so you can see him as well. There we go. Hi. Simon, welcome, Simon. Simon Phipps. You've heard of him here before. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Randal. It's great to be back on the show again.
Very cool. Well, I know we have a really special guest this week. But let's see, before I get to it, is there anything I wanted to say? No, I think that was it. So you describe our guest.
So coming to OSCON this week, there was a big announcement happened over the weekend, just before the Cloud Summit that O'Reilly have been running here, the announcement of OpenStack.org, which is an Apache licensed, fully open piece of software that lets you run your own private cloud computing environment. And this project brings together work that's been done at NASA as well, and it comes bathed in a little bit of controversy because the competitors to this project are open core projects, and our guest today has been reasonably strongly outspoken against open core. So it's going to be interesting to ask him some questions about that.
So let me rearrange the desk here a little bit and bring our guest on. We'll be right back. So joining me right now here live at OSCON, so if you hear a little bit of noise in the background, it's because there's all sorts of stuff going on around here. I'm introducing our guest today, Rick Clark of Rackspace. Hello, Rick.
Hello. Hi. It's great to be here.
Great, great. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to the conference this year and what really the big announcement is.
Well, I always come to OSCON, but what brought me this year was a big announcement that just happened to come. And we actually were trying to make it a month ago, but we just happened to be announcing that Rackspace, in conjunction with NASA, we joined forces to open source infrastructure as a service cloud, right? Called OpenStack, which I'm the project lead of.
And the URL for that is?
OpenStack.org.
Great.
Go to the wiki, unless you want the marketing stuff. So go to wiki.openstack.org.
I was noticing there wasn't really a lot of information there yet. So
on the wiki or on the
sort of on the main pages, like it's sort of like
it's slick, and the marketing guys and the business guys did a great job making it look pretty. But the wiki, we can, us techies can control.
Ah, okay. Well, that's what makes the difference. Now, so what's the history of the software that's been made open source? How did it all start?
So
and why?
Well, there's a lot of parts to that. That's a very multifaceted question. Actually, it's the answer that's multifaceted. The question was simple.
The question was very short, yes.
Rackspace bought a company called SliceHost, which was a VPS provider, and that became their cloud servers offering. It's really good. It got them, so far. But as we started to look at the scalability we wanted and the elasticity, we realized we were going to have to re-architect it. So that was one part of it. The other part is Rackspace started rewriting, and they just launched, I think a couple of months ago, a new version of their cloud object store. All written in Python. So we have that new thing. So as we started to look at re-architecting, we wanted to open source. We wanted to just completely be open because we don't sell software. In order for us to keep it to keep it private and closed, there had to be some reason, like do we have some super secret knowledge that no one else has? And we don't. I mean, we do it at scale. Other people do it at scale. We're all doing the same thing, and there really aren't that many ways to do it and do it right.
The one reason to keep it closed source would be if you were embarrassed by some of the coding style.
So, yeah. So that goes on to one of the other facets of this. Yeah, so it wasn't written with the thought of ever releasing it. So and one guy wrote most of it, a brilliant guy, Jason Seitz.
Okay.
But he wrote it sort of responding to, you know, whatever daily issue there was. So there's this iterative process, and, you know, you might pull down whatever you find from GitHub without thinking of licenses or anything, and, you know, you might put whatever language in your comments, and so there was that too. I mean, I don't think we could have just released what we had without a lot of work. But and it wasn't what we, you know, why release something that we want to phase out anyway, that we want to move to something else. So as we started working on architecting the next version, we found the NASA code, the Nova code.
Right.
And we, from the very beginning, we looked at open source projects because we thought, instead of, if someone else is doing what we want to do, we'll join them. We don't want to start it over ourselves. So we didn't find anything we liked at first either. It was open core, which is not really okay with me, or it just didn't scale, or both, usually both.
Okay, why open core not okay with you?
So open core is
without getting too nasty.
Great debate.
Yes.
So there might be a way to do open core and have it be fine, but the way it's that I keep seeing it actually be implemented is people keeping their open source version of their software low quality, so that so they can sell their enterprise version. And and I don't want to, you know, point fingers, but they're very. I mean, they're very specific projects that have just rejected code that improved their software because they wanted to keep it bad.
Okay.
Either, you know, and not just features. And, you know, keeping a feature out is one thing, but fixing a bug that improved performance.
So in other words, sort of having the literal, like, yes, we are open source, to be able to check that box off, to be trendy and cool, but it's really crippling the open source stuff.
It's not even as good as shareware. It's crippleware.
Okay,
and, you know,
wow.
It's not open in spirit. It's just, I have no love for it.
Okay.
So, I mean, one of the reasons this debate is controversial about open core is because there's all sorts of different projects that have different meanings to open core. So, the interpretation I've been touting around recently has been to say that if you're using the enterprise version of someone's product and you can't carry on using it after you end your relationship with the vendor, then it's probably open core. Would you agree with that, or would you say that you've got a different kind of understanding of what you think of when you say open core?
So it is difficult because I think there isn't a good definition. I think that's one definition. I don't know that I would apply that to many projects that I know that are kind of calling themselves open core, or that I would consider open core. You know, the best definition, the one that might work, is if you have an open source product that has that you can add functionality and special hardware that maybe is very proprietary that not many people have, or management tools that aren't part of the, you know, of the main project, that aren't needed by the main project. That might be an okay thing to do. If you have something that's only of interest to a very small group, that maybe you have to. That has to say secret because of the hardware. That's okay. And if it was defined like that, and actually implemented like that, I mean, I wouldn't love it still, but I wouldn't hate it as much. But that's not what I see at all. And then, you know, the thing to me is if you have an open core project and I submit something to you, a feature that I've added, and you reject it, and then next week your enterprise version comes out with that feature,
Ooh.
I'm very suspicious.
Yes, yes.
You better, you know, if you did take my code, you better have changed all the strings. That's all. You better like make sure that all the variables are named differently, or anything in there that I can find using strings is gone.
Okay, great. So now we've got your position on open core. Now let's say first that OpenStack is not open core.
Not at all.
Instead, let's go to what it actually is now.
So it is what we want it to be is a completely community-driven, completely open project. That means we're going to develop in the open. That means we're going to design in the open. That means the community is open. That means the way we do governance, we're going to have community on the board. So you can be a part of deciding the vision. You can see us developing it. You can test it while we develop it. You can give us code while we develop it. It's not Rackspace's vision that we're going to toss to you. It's separate. This is what we really want is to be the Apache. We want to level the playing field and say, let's not all write this same thing over and over again. Let's make it so that a 15-year-old kid in his garage, or 2 college roommates, which is how Rackspace started, can throw up some servers, you know, in a rented office space and compete with giant telcos or anyone. I mean, that is a competitive market, and that's just an awesome thing that open source can do.
Cool. And so what is the niche that this product is filling? Why would I choose it instead of something else? Why would I choose it instead of nothing? What's it filling?
Well, there's not a lot to choose from. So, I mean, so
makes it easy.
A completely open infrastructure as a service, you know, a completely open cloud, with a that comes from someone that can scale. You know, so NASA, which does things at a fairly large scale, and Rackspace, which does things at a fairly large scale. There really isn't anything like that. I mean, there's other products.
So what is it actually? I mean,
we're trying to get to it.
I sat in the Cloud Summit here at OSCON yesterday, listening to people talking about cloud, and as you would hope from a Cloud Summit, it was all very fluffy, you know. And I want to concretely, what is it?
I would like to claim that I wasn't as fluffy, but what it is I mean, and this infrastructure as a service, the basic fabric of these things is you have an API that you can talk to. You have a messaging layer. Then you have something that can create VMs.
Right.
And then there's some other tools around that, but that's what it is. And that's why, you know, how many ways are there to create VMs or talk to VMs? I mean, how many times do we need to rewrite this?
Right. So this is just a piece of software that creates remote VMs and gives you control of them, so you've then got SSH, so you can go in and do things.
Yeah, you have a RESTful interface. You have a RESTful interface to talk to it. I mean, but it's this. I mean, there's nothing groundbreaking. I mean, it's not right. Where the coolness of the cloud's going to be. So that's really why I wanted to do this. Let's start actually doing interesting things. Let's stop doing the thing that's not that interesting and pretending like it's secret sauce that no one else has.
So I have got some questions about this, because I've been reading up on the web about what you're doing. And so one of the things that I read in one of the articles or interviews that someone at Rackspace did was that actually OpenStack doesn't contain everything you need to compete with Rackspace. It hasn't got billing software. It hasn't got console management software. Is that true?
Yet. All that stuff will be added, and if someone else wants to write it. So the reason it doesn't is like the billing that Rackspace uses is part of a larger billing thing that's actually proprietary that couldn't be released. But that's actually not part of the code that we use for servers anyway. All we do is generate billable events, and we will do that.
Right.
So we're not going to, to intentionally leave out anything. So even if there are bits that we can't take from Rackspace, we will either rewrite them or have someone in the community rewrite them. So it will be complete. And what we really want is for billing and things like that in particular. If you're a company, you probably already bill your customers. So we really just need to provide an interface into the data.
Well, up to a point, but I mean, if I am going to set it up in the cabin in my garden, I don't have a billing system. I'm going to have to get one from somewhere if I'm going to set this up. So I am going to need something in there sooner or later. So you expect someone in the community is going to come up with basic billing, basic load management for the servers that you've got.
Well, we'll do all. So the load management stuff, that will all eventually be part of it. We'll be adding all of that. So, but rather than writing a billing software for this, I'd rather find another open source project that does billing. I mean, why? But we're not inventing billing. I mean, if someone wants to write some really, really simple thing so that you don't have to go find another project, we'll include it. But, you know, I don't know if there's any good open source billing projects out there.
Fascinating, yeah.
But, you know, if you have one, feel free to email me. Tell me about it.
The other thing, I had someone come up to me yesterday and say, oh, yes, but these guys have got a contributor agreement. They're going to try and take all of your copyright away from you and aggregate it in the project. Is that true?
No. So we have a contributor agreement, but all it does, if you look at it, it's a copy of the Apache one. All it does is sort of restate the Apache license, and it's something that our lawyers wanted us to do because they thought that having someone agree, you know, by like signing this was more enforceable than just having the code under the Apache license. If something happened, if we had to go to court, and we're in a space where there are litigious folks.
Right. So this contributor agreement you've got, does it aggregate the rights to contributions in the community into Rackspace? Or
no. Just no. It just says you're licensing Apache. We don't take copyright assignment.
Okay.
We don't want your copyright. You own your code, and we try to be pretty clear about that. But I don't know if I consider that just ignorance, where people aren't reading our documentation, or it's FUD.
It could be one or the other.
Yeah.
That's the reason I want to ask you directly what the questions are, because you know, and the third question to ask you directly that I'm sure you're looking for is, you know, looking at the governance, you seem to have special reserved seats for NASA and Rackspace.
We do.
Why are they there?
They're there because the Rackspace ones are there because they are investing a lot in this and and asked for that, and the NASA ones are there because the U.S. government requested that in order to. I mean, we're doing our best to make it, you know, as community driven as possible. We had to, in order to bring like the two projects together, we had to make. I don't know if there were really compromises, but we had to. Because we're getting good people on the board. But we did make sure that there's a process so that if the project isn't going the right way, that, you know, the board, which includes community members, which is going to include a decent number of community members that are elected, can overrule like me, who works for Rackspace. So we finding something that pleased all the business people, that we thought would please open source, that would please the U.S. government. Was non-trivial.
Absolutely. You have n incompatible objectives, and you've been able to achieve n-2 of them. So that's probably pretty good. Is this OpenStack established as a company or as a foundation or what?
So right now it is an LLC that is owned by Rackspace. Right. It is entirely owned, so I guess it's a subsidiary, but has no way of making money. I would like at some point for the code to be, you know, in a nonprofit foundation.
Right.
That is not going to be my choice. I think that might make a lot of people, if there are people that still, you know, feel uncomfortable, that would you know, alleviate some of that and give them comfort. And so that's really why I want it, because what I care about is the project and it being successful. And I really believe in, you know, I believe in what we're doing. I believe in open source. I think we're doing the right thing, and so I want the project to survive and do well. And
you know, ultimately, if any of these things are wrong, presumably there's the freedom to fork in there. So.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean that's part of it.
It's all under the Apache license.
And in the end, that might be the thing that helps us get it to. You know, we don't want to fork because we don't want to. We don't want, you know, to divide the work and have people working on the same. I mean, the whole point of this is that we're not all reinventing the wheel. If we can keep it all together, that would be great. So a lot of the things that have caused problems in other communities and had created forks, we're trying to avoid, we're trying to learn from.
Right.
You know, I've heard all about the process now, but I'm still trying to figure out what it is. And let me see if I can relate to it for a second. Okay, so I've used EC2. I know that EC2 provides me a hardware platform that I can dial up or dial down as my processes require. There's even, automatic monitoring that takes care of that for me. It has a back-end database, a back-end storage that I presume is replicated in geographically disparate locations that I'm all taken care of here. How much of what this is similar to that, so I can relate it to that?
It is that.
And how much of this will be available soon? I mean, could I take my EC2 project today that uses EBS and uses the database and all those layers? How soon could I move that to what you're talking about here?
So the EBS that's provided. So there is object store.
Okay.
There's a block store that's provided as part of the NASA had already done. We don't have the database yet, like a simple database sort of equivalent, but that's something we'll add.
Didn't you hire everyone that works on Drizzle?
And we have a lot of the Cassandra guys work for us. So I expect it'll happen. In fact, a lot of the Drizzle guys are now, at least a few of them, are now working on this project.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we will slowly. We don't have all those features yet, but we'll slowly add them.
Right. So how soon am I going to be able to set up a rack space competitor in my cabin?
You could start now.
You can always start now.
Yeah. You could get something functional. Right now, the code is moving very, very quickly. So it's really, really moving quickly. We're getting a lot of contributions. So I would wait for 3 months till we put out the first release. But you can take what we started with, and it installs and it runs, and it's we haven't added the Rackspace API yet, but we added the NASA guys have the EC2 API. So you could start now. You could start now creating create a service and then start connecting and adding VMs. And
How close is this to EC2? Could I take an AMI from EC2 and run it here somehow?
At this point, so right now, pretty much, yeah. So
wow.
right now, right now, pretty much. Now, what we don't want to. So as with the EC2 API and like the images, we can't extend that or do anything interesting. We don't want to chase Amazon, and I think that it's bad for everyone except Amazon if we standardize around Amazon. Mm-hmm. So what we really want to do is take the OpenStack API, which is going to be was given to us from Rackspace, and we want to extend that. And we want to come up with a really nice way to handle images that is more of an open standard than AMIs. I don't think that we're not ripping out support for any of those things, but I think our focus are things that we can actually do work on and things that we can actually extend.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed, and maybe it's because of my ignorance, but it seems like there's some secret sauce to make an AMI. So I can't just load FreeBSD up and make it work, or it would have been done long ago. And so hopefully what you're talking about is the kind of APIs that would make it fairly trivial for me to take like a VMware image or something and just start it running in your cloud.
So yeah, so what we're looking at is something that is similar to OVF, if not a subset of kind of what OVF, which is the Open Virtualization Format.
Okay.
It's a tarball that contains a hard drive image, and then then a manifest file that says some things about it.
Because that's what I really want to do. Is I want to be able to take VirtualBox, make an image that runs on my laptop, and then upload it somewhere and have it all just work.
There's another problem there that isn't really solved by our project, which is that all the different hypervisors provide different interfaces and different devices. So you can't at this point be sure that you can take an image from one thing, move it to another platform with a different hypervisor and have that work. It might work, but I wouldn't, bet my life on it.
If we were at the stage of making feature requests here, I would really like the desktop to be free software and not VMware, so that I can use completely free software to get my virtual machine image set up, upload it, and have it run in the cloud without ever having to touch any proprietary software.
So there's one thing that is kind of interesting that I think I would like to do. Now, I can't control whether the people that implement the software actually implement this. Is we're hypervisor agnostic, so we're going to support like KVM and Zen out of the box. We're happy to support Hyper-V if Microsoft wants to write that for us and release it under the Apache license.
The guys are here at OSCON.
I know.
We can go ask them.
Yeah, I hope
Robert's
I hope
in the
they do.
corridor over there.
And VMware, whatever hypervisor, so that you can take an image, and in that manifest you can say, hey, this is one that requires this hypervisor, and then it will just go to the correct machine. That would be a wonderful thing. But then that means that if you're implementing this, you need to have all those different hypervisors in your back end, and that's sort of a management nightmare too. But at least to the customer, to the user, that would be a good experience. That means they could move their VMs. That's something that I think we all want. We need the hypervisor space to fix that for us.
And also, I'm sort of curious now, these are generic cloud questions, but I'm wondering if there's going to be specific ways to address this with OpenStack. And I'm always worried, like when I'm running something at Amazon, about security. I've got all these issues about, first I have to trust Amazon that they're not going to mess with my data, but no software is perfect. And so if you have something that's running a VM space of some kind, how do we ensure that there's not, lateral leakage from the other guys happening running on the same box?
I want to say faith, but so there's a couple of interesting things. First of all, with KVM, so with the hypervisor that's built into Linux kernel, and libvirt and AppArmor, Jamie Strandberg, who works for Canonical, as one of the security engineers, wrote a really kind of a nice wrapper that actually protects that and stops leakage between VMs. So I would love to implement that. We don't use it now. So that's one interesting thing. On the other side, NASA, the U.S. government has I don't want to call them crazy, but crazy security requirements.
Yeah.
IP addresses are considered secret information.
Wow.
Yeah. So which
good thing is IPv6. There's so many more of them to be secret. Yes.
Yeah. So so they are building in security things that are really, they didn't think they would be of interest to the general public, but I think that we can take, they're all going to be included, and we can take whatever bits of those are going to be useful, and you'll have the framework to really make something really secure.
Even at the level of military classification secret, or not?
I don't know. I know that they're doing
it's tricky to do
stuff, and they're doing Phipps stuff.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I don't know how far they're going, but it's pretty stringent.
Well, because we also have the issues, especially in the medical community, with stuff like HIPAA and stuff. I mean, there's that sort of issue related here. So we have to have some sort of guarantee that, if we start putting medical records up in clouds like this, that things are going to be safe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you certainly don't want someone looking at the pictures of your last prostate exam. Yeah.
Not that they would enjoy that very much.
By the way, you check out my Flickr account. No.
Are you telling me you've got my prostate exam on your Flickr account? I'm a little worried already now.
I do, yeah. The smile on your face was disturbing.
Yes. I was also just going to say, I've heard rumors that Amazon was actually attacked from their own EC2 site.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't verified that.
No, I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
And it wasn't me.
So, again, I think you talked a little bit about timeline. You said we could start today, but, it's not obviously going to be ready for a while to be able to do this kind of migration movement. So what sort of timeline are you really looking at?
So I guess let me, and there have been a lot of kind of misinformation or like not correct information spread about this. So all of this is in production somewhere. Right. So right now we're in development adding features, but the Nova code from NASA is running at NASA. The storage code, the object store, is holding petabytes of storage for customers at Rackspace now. So I don't want to act like this is like purely alpha software. But especially the compute side, the Nova side, it's moving so fast that if you took a snapshot now, I couldn't tell you what would work. And that's really more of the reason for caution than anything else, is that we're getting so much code contributed that we're going to have to wait for it to slow down and make sure that I want to make sure we have quality. I don't. The worst thing for me would be for people to try it, and with things are half done, things we're in the middle of refactoring different things or adding abstractions, and then for them to form an opinion about the entire project. Now on the storage side, OpenStack storage, that is completely different. That is pretty much at a 1.0. There are bugs being fixed, but you could. you could implement that today. I mean, Rackspace is implemented, and we beat the crap out of it and feel pretty comfortable with it.
So now your heritage has got Canonical in it.
Yeah.
So is all this code going to end up in Ubuntu?
I really hope so. I mean, I can't guarantee it or make it happen, but well, it's all going to end up in Ubuntu in some way. So we've already built packages, and we've already uploaded them to Debian and they'll be in Universe. So, but I mean, I would really like Canonical to officially support it. I mean, I love Ubuntu. I mean, I spent 2.5 years helping to create the Ubuntu Server Edition and the cloud stuff that they're working on. So I feel very strong. I mean, I want that. I want Ubuntu. It's important to me.
Now so the storage stuff, just so I understand what this is this is similar to S3 and EBS? Is it going to have that?
S3, not EBS.
Okay, so it has a web sort of interface.
It has a RESTful interface, and it can store billions and billions of objects. Those objects can be anything.
But no way to mount it as a virtual drive.
No, not at this time. And I don't know if there will ever be a way to mount that as a virtual drive, just because maybe there's some sort of abstraction you could do to make that possible, but we might have to add another service that's a block service. I mean, right now one comes with Nova, but it's actually fairly primitive. We want to, I think, beef that up quite a bit.
I know that there's user space implementations that can mount S3 as a drive in user space. So if that's enough for people, then that'll work. But you obviously wouldn't be able to boot off of that.
Yeah, and that wouldn't. So and our cloud storage does not use the S3 API. There is support for the S3. It's kind of complicated because we've taken two projects and mashed them together.
Right.
Some of what they do is similar. So there is support for the S3 on the compute side, but not on the cloud storage side, not on the storage side.
So it's interesting to hear that. Who has architectural oversight over this stuff? Or is it just a matter of me showing up and saying, hey, I'd like that to support Tahoe laughs. Can I slap that in somewhere? So
so I have architectural oversight, but you can. So as long as it's optional, as long as it's modular, it's a very modular architecture. You can add anything, just it's not going to be the default way to do it probably. So as long as you don't, and we have some rules that are set up on the wiki that says we'll accept anything from you as long as it doesn't affect scalability and elasticity.
Right.
And if it affects scalability and elasticity, then make it optional, and we'll still accept it.
So obviously this is still in its oops, I pushed the wrong button here. Obviously this is still in its infancy. Not infancy, but at least there's some production things there. What kind of people are you looking to attract to the product and project at this point? And also, what kind of people would be using this? I mean, does it make sense for me to take 3 machines and virtualize them, or are we really sort of looking at a lower threshold of a rack of 72 machines or something?
No, so I think that it is reasonable to do on 3 machines. It just, I think that it's reasonable to do on 3 machines. It will all run on a laptop. That is not as reasonable. But
that's really important, because when you're starting small, when I've looked at the Amazon services, one of the challenges is that there's a very high threshold of knowledge and capability to be able to actually deploy something up there. And I would much rather be able to snap a whole load of things together on a laptop or in a local environment that I can then scale up and upload. I think it's really important you can run on a laptop, to be honest.
Yeah, that was one of our requirements, and it was one of NASA's requirements as well. That you can take this, and they've stubbed out everything. So there's a fake authentication, there's fake LDAP, there's even fake VMs, fake hypervisors, and so you can run it all and using all the fake components and not actually need all these things, because some of them are actually hard to get running on a laptop if it doesn't have enough RAM or
So now, Randal's been talking about it as a product. I think you see it as a project.
I do, yeah.
Is there anyone in your community at the moment who will be selling support or productization for this, or is your vision that this stays very much like an Apache project where all of that sort of thing is out on the margins somewhere?
So I don't think in the project. I don't know if I don't think we care about that. But I think Rackspace could at some point sell support for this. I mean, that's what they do is support things. I mean, they support Apache and Linux. So I imagine at some point they were. I don't think they're set up to do that now. I think Cloud.com announced this morning that they're going to be joining. They actually had a sort of a competing product, and I think that they're stopping development on that and just taking what we have and moving on from there. And they're going to be supporting it, I'm sure.
That's the great thing about an open Apache licensed project. I even heard yesterday Morten Mikos on the panel saying that Eucalyptus might be willing to pick the code up and support it. So it sounds a very open activity.
Yeah, it is, and we will accept. I mean, there's no one that I think is tainted. I mean, anyone that wants to come and is willing to accept our rules, can come and play.
And then what kind of skill sets are you looking for? What do I need to know to be able to edit this, play with it, deploy it? What's my expertise level here?
So it would be, if you really want to deploy it, I think you need some Linux system administration skills, and it's written in Python. So being able to figure out if Python sends you a traceback that you don't have a module, being able to figure that out is a little helpful. But as far as attracting people to the project, we're attracting a lot of developers. So developers come, but people that just want to help us with the wiki. I mean, we need everyone. In fact, we need those people, maybe more, to come and help us with documentation, to come and help us manage the community. If you have the number of code contributions we're getting right now, it's starting to feel a little overwhelming. So if you want to come help us with release management, come, please. I mean, we if someone shows up to help, we'll find a place for you. Right.
And then where is this at? Where people find things?
Go to wiki.openstack.org.
Wiki.openstack.org. And is your bug tracker in a public place and on your source repository in a public place?
Yeah. So right now everything's on Launchpad. Right. So so you can just go to Launchpad and you can join the project and you can download the code and participate. And we chose Launchpad because it's the only one that's actually open source. Now, yes, now. So that happened while I was at Canonical, and we were ribbed for that.
I seem to remember doing it.
Yeah,
Well, great. Any last things you want to tell our audience?
Well, I would like to. The response to this has been great from the open source community and the cloud community, and I just want to thank everyone that's supported the project, that's shown up and has tried to contribute code. I mean, it's wonderful. I hope that all of us together can do something awesome. Very cool. Well, I want to thank you very much for stopping by this morning. I know you have a lot of other things you could do, like the keynote. We took him away from the keynote, guys, so he took his time out to be with us. So thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you. It's been great. I enjoyed this. This is Rick Clark here. He's working with Rackspace and working on the OpenStack project. Thank you very much.